Hello everyone and welcome to Felix's Spacetime. In today's video, I had a very special interview with Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, talking to him about him being selected as a crew member on DearMoon. I had an amazing time interviewing Tim and I hope you enjoy the interview. Merry Christmas.
Same type, we're go, flight. Okay, we're go.
We're go, same type, we're go.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on here for another interview and welcome back to the channel. Before I start with our questions, I just want to say first, congratulations on being selected as one of the crew members for DearMoon. That must feel amazing to you. And kind of, I know it's been a while since we had our last interview, so kind of tell me a bit about what you've been doing since then. What's your favorite thing that you've done this year?
Well, thank you, Felix. Yeah, it still feels very surreal. It definitely, now that the announcement came out, that made it feel a lot more like imminent and a lot more holy crap. This is coming up now. Because and it's kind of just been in the back of my head for so long that I haven't been thinking a ton about DearMoon. Because 2022 was a very, very busy year for spaceflight, as you know. There was just so much going on, and specifically, a couple of really big launches. Specifically, Artemis was awesome. It was really fun too, being out at Vandenberg Air Force Base or Space Force Base for Alpha, for the first successful launch of Firefly's Alpha rocket. That was super fun too. I think since we last spoke, I think the thing that I'm most excited about was probably honestly seeing SLS finally fly. I've been watching that program since I first started getting interested in spaceflight, kind of in 2013, 2014. So that was a big one, literally. And it was really fun to see fly.
Yeah, amazing. What was that experience like when you watched the launch?
Oh, man. The funniest thing is, so we have a video from behind the scene, like behind us as you see the rocket.
Yeah.
And at some point, all of us just turn into like cavemen and we just start like dancing and like putting our arms up, like looking at this new sun in the sky, basically, and like basically like ooga booga. It just turned us all into like primates for a little bit, because it was so. And the only words that came out of my stupid mouth was, "It's so bright." Like that's all I could say, because it was, those solid rocket boosters are just ridiculous. I've never seen SRBs that big, and at night they just absolutely dominate the sky. It is crazy. Like, it's bright enough that, I had sun stains, like if you're looking at the sun.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even see like by booster separation, I was still like trying to see through those to actually see, because it was that bright. Like a Falcon 9 is actually really bright with running on kerosene, and other RP1 based rockets. But that was on another level. And then the sound was awesome too. The sound was just this really deep growl. But I have to say, it wasn't as loud, and I thought it was like gonna shake stuff. Like I expected, to just feel it in my chest so much that I was like gonna be almost nervous. And it wasn't that loud. It was quite like normal rocket loud, I guess, which still awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. So I'm going to start off with our first question about DearMoon now. So do you have any worries about the mission? Anything from training and actually launching and orbiting the moon?
Oh, I'm definitely, I don't think I'm like the most risk adverse person. I'm relatively adventurous, but this is definitely on a different scale of adventure for sure. There's inherent risks for sure. I will need to, I hope that the training prepares us for, for a lot of those kinds of like what to expect, get a better familiarity with the system and with the backup systems and all of the things that are going to keep the crew safe during this entire, nearly week-long journey. And right now, yeah, I'm frankly quite nervous. Obviously the versions of Starship that we've seen are just very early prototypes, doing very early, incremental testing. So far, obviously, what I've seen, what the public has seen, has been just very rudimentary. So I'm excited to see this develop more and become a really safe, safe vehicle to fly on. So yeah, I'm nervous. I'm not nervous about training. I'm really looking forward to training. I'm really looking forward to kind of a different challenge. I feel like I'm a little sad that my YouTube channel is probably going to take I mean, look at how much my YouTube channel suffered for 6 months as I chased rockets across the country and built out a production van. Like there wasn't a ton going on. So I have a feeling it'll be another, kind of dry spell on the channel for a bit. But I'm really looking forward to a new challenge and something that's an opportunity that I would absolutely never have, any other way.
Yeah, I know you talked about just now about kind of the safety systems. You made a whole YouTube video about how Starship doesn't have like a redundancy, if something goes wrong, something goes wrong. They don't have like, don't press a button, you just kind of eject out the top. Does that kind of
Right.
worry you as well? Because you've done so much research into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it does for sure. And I think I even said in that video that I wouldn't consider flying it until it's flown, like 100 times or something. And
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know if we'll
yeah,
quite get to 100, but I think there will be some amount of true flight heritage out of the vehicle well before humans get on it. And at the end of the day, I do think it's a better platform for human spaceflight than the space shuttle was, which had a lot of inherent flaws that they were flying with. A lot of known flaws. I think Starship will have known flaws as well. Just known. I don't know about known flaws, but no, they'll know their risks better. They'll and ahead
yeah,
of time and be able to have iteration to be able to remove some of those risks. That's kind of the beautiful thing about this program is that it does iterate so quickly. If something isn't working out, they're not married to it. They're not completely tied to it for the rest of the program, like the space shuttle, where it's like, hey, we have two pretty big flaws here. These SRBs can't be shut down, and we don't have an abort system, and our orbiters slung off the side of the vehicle, off the side of a cryogenic fuel tank that is going to be raining debris down upon our orbiter. And those are just known flaws, and we'll
yeah,
just have to go for it. So I think those, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, the shuttle was, 98.5% reliable. It was reasonably reliable. I think, one of them was completely avoidable. The Challenger disaster was completely avoidable. But realistically, the rocket itself was still quite reliable. So if we can get to at least that level of safety, then I'm quite confident in that.
amazing. I know a big part of your YouTube channel is your orange Soviet era spacesuit. Is the suit something you'd like to take with you during your space flight?
100%. I'm definitely going to be asking to be able to take my old Soviet era flight suit for sure. I don't, at this point we don't know exactly what we're going to be able to bring and do and
Yeah,
all of those types of things, but I'm definitely going to push for that because I just think it'd be so funny and so ironic and bring the whole everyday astronaut thing kind of full circle if that yeah, if I have that space, that old Soviet space suit with me.
amazing. What's your plans for recording your experience of Dear Moon? From training to launch and landing, kind of live stream from orbit, maybe some interviews.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for it all. Why not? I don't know what I can and can't do at this point.
Yeah,
But you better believe I'm going to be asking to try to push the boundaries and try to do as much to share the experience as possible in a way that's never been done before. I really think at this point in day and age, people are used to some behind the scenes stuff and they're used to getting a shared experience. And SpaceX has always been open and transparent. And I think this opportunity with a completely private mission, we might be able to have the opportunity to live stream more than before and on orbit live, especially with Starlink going online here pretty soon. With Polaris 1, they'll be testing Starlink out on Dragon capsule, so we should hopefully have that data infrastructure. We won't be relying on the deep space network for our data downlinks and stuff like that. So hopefully it should actually be able to provide decent bandwidth to be able to potentially do some live streams from space that are awesome. But also just the training and stuff at this point, I know for sure myself and two others will be heavily documenting the process and sharing that kind of from our perspectives. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to put directly on my YouTube channel right away, but that is also something that I'm going to be pushing for, is like sharing some of these smaller, training tidbits and what it's been like, and maybe just almost vlog style a little bit of some of the challenges and the exciting things and things that I'm working on. But we'll see about some of those things because it is a little different. This is kind of something that's never been done before, where you have all these 8 people that are going to be doing this together, but it's it's just very and it's
yeah,
really exciting.
yeah. I can't wait to see some videos of you training. Um, what was going through your head when you submitted your DearMoon application? Kind of, what did you think was going to happen? What do you think the outcome of that video was going to be?
To be perfectly honest, like I was actually almost in a way nervous that I would get chosen. Like I kind of almost was like, oh man, if I do this, I actually have a chance of being chosen. And at the
Yeah.
time, it really did feel quite scary, especially I was in the middle at that time of seeing multiple Starship vehicles explode, like I was very much feeling the risk physically. So I definitely, at the time was quite nervous. I've gotten over some of that, just seeing the success of the Crew Dragon program and the Crew Dragon capsule. Inspiration 4 was just awesome to see. Yeah, they may have had a little bit of a toilet issue, but that's at least on some of the Starship we could have easily redundant toilets. But my mindset's changed a little bit, and I realistically, when I submitted the application, I said I can't pass this opportunity up because this is like the ultimate. How could you pass up the opportunity to actually fly out to the moon? Like it just is absolutely insane. And I'd probably be kicking myself a lot more if I'm sitting there saying there was even if there's a 0.1% chance that I could have gone, and I'm watching this thing fly and I'm watching, people fly around the moon. Like I would have been just feeling like I had missed out if I hadn't at least tried.
Yeah. Well, good that you submitted because, here we are. Can you walk me through what you were doing and where you were, kind of what you were doing when you found out that you had the place on the mission? How long ago was that?
So I can't speak specifically about the exact timing of it, but it was some time ago already. But I was right here in the studio space, and I had what they said was a final interview. That Yusaku Maezawa had a few more questions for me. They said, like, yeah, he just has a couple more questions. As we're, at this point, I knew we were in the final steps. We were in the final selection process, so I knew we were down to like, a handful of people. So I was like, oh man, these, and they this was quite normal. We'd have Zoom calls often and things that, even we had a couple in-person meetings and things like that. And, I was not that prepared really, and not thinking like, oh, this is an invitation or anything. I was just thinking, okay, yeah, this is all part of the process. So basically they got me on the Zoom meeting, and then MZ just sat down, or Yusaku sat down right away, and basically just without any hesitation, basically, I don't remember if he said, do you want to go to the moon, or he said, I don't quite remember his exact words, but I just was like, I think the first thing I said, are you sure you want me to go with you, or something? Like, I don't know. I think I was quite shocked, honestly. I think I was kind of, I think it didn't quite hit for a little bit. So I was right here, and I was just kind of like, I was just in awe. I just didn't even know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I just sort of sat there like, are you sure? So yeah, that's what it was like. And I kept it a secret from my family even until I had all my family together, until I had everybody in the same room, the same time and place, so I could record their reactions. And then I ended up posting in my video, the very beginning of it is the reaction of my family. So it was pretty fun.
Wonderful. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this next question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you know when your training starts, and what are you most looking forward to learning about?
Yeah, we don't actually have a training schedule laid out quite yet, but I expect that to be very soon.
Yeah.
I'm sure that at this point, I'm guessing it's just a matter of like knowing that, the system's ready for us to really train around it, and we're all waiting for that orbital flight test. And once that happens, and I think things will start, we'll get into a much quicker pace. So, yeah, timing, don't know exactly, but what I'm definitely looking most forward to for sure is like, again, just kind of pushing myself and trying new things and learning things that I wouldn't have the opportunity to necessarily learn, and just even having like the disciplines of, checklists and things like that. Like, I have about 32 hours of my private pilot's license done at this point in my life. And, this is a good excuse to maybe set time aside for some of those other types of things like that, and treat this as a, as a real mission, as a training opportunity, just to learn, just to be fully mentally prepared and know the system as best as I possibly can. Just even not for my behalf, but even for the crew members' behalf, that, you know, I'm not obviously a true systems expert or anything, but I'll learn absolutely as much as I can to be able to, you know, help provide answers for the crew on board, and for those back home to be able to help, you know, do my job of bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. But I'm going to throw myself out there. I don't know if there's an opportunity to be able to train as, you know, as a mission pilot or not, to be able to actually operate the spacecraft. But you better believe if there's a chance that I get to physically operate Starship, that I'm 100% going to be going for that, for sure.
You talked about the first Starship orbital flight. Have you got any plans to be in Starbase at the time, kind of to watch it? We don't really know the date yet, but hopefully sometime in kind of the early
I think
next year.
I finally think that's coming up pretty soon. It's looking more and more like they're really preparing for the actual flight at this point, you know, with the systems and everything, and the ground system all getting kind of beefed up, and you know, they're putting a lot of, like, you know, literally, like, yeah, strengthening it up to be able to prepare for 33 Raptor engines. It's definitely looking like they're ramping up for it. So that's really exciting. I will definitely be at our Mars studio space down there, recording. And, you know, like, luckily the whole reason we built the van was because we already had a lot of that gear, not all of it, but a lot of that gear sitting there at that studio space, just not being used. And so we put it basically on wheels so that it could be used, you know, elsewhere, Florida and California. And now when it's back at Mars, we'll literally plug the van into the studio. We have just a couple snakes and some fiber optic and stuff, and just boop, and we'll actually be able to run the whole show. So then it almost becomes like another room of the building to be able to actually stream from. So it just kind of frees up a little bit of space. And then also the good thing too is it'll, you know, it's set up. It's all pretty much, you know, the core, the heart of the vehicle is all wired in. So it'll be hopefully just a lot more reliable and redundant system too.
Wonderful. So what would you say to young people wanting to document space and spaceflight, or work in the space industry when they're older?
To document it, man, I wish I had really good advice for that, but unfortunately the answer to that is just tenacity. Is just like being, you know, there's people that are out at Starbase specifically, you know, because it is such a public place. There's people out there 24/7, and it just takes an insane amount of dedication from those people. It takes an insane amount of will and blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And, you know, putting everything else aside, like, those people's lives are basically just fully invested in this at that point, you know. And absolute hats off and kudos to them. You know, I mean, there's too many for me to list. I don't want to, you know, forget somebody, so I'm not even going to try, because there's just a solid handful that are doing incredible work out there. So I think that's one, but the big thing is you really just got to dive in, and it's really hard to do as someone from the Midwest that still lives in the Midwest. You know, and I went out to as many rocket launches as I could early on, and it was really expensive, and, you know, wasn't getting paid for it. So I was just saving up money basically to go see a rocket launch and get credentialed and shoot it, and just get as many opportunities as I could. So I think it's just a matter of, like, if it's something that you really, really want, then you're going to have to make, you know, you'll make it happen. And it's a matter of sometimes it's backwards. Like, you want to work in the spaceflight industry, so you might have to work at Starbucks for 2 years to save up enough money to be able to do some of the things that you want to be doing, you know. So really, you know, you just got to follow your heart on that kind of stuff. And as far as working in the aerospace industry, I would say, again, following your heart. And sometimes the easiest way into that front door for sure is a good old aerospace degree, you know, especially with most of these companies. You walk in the door as a passionate individual with an aerospace degree, and show them the extra projects you worked on. Like, hey, I actually designed the GNC for this, you know, this space shot, you know, scale model rocket that we did. Or I developed a liquid fueled rocket engine in our lab. You know, here's all the extra things that I did because I'm so in love with this stuff. Then you're a shoo-in. Then who's not going to be excited about working with someone that has already just, like, their whole life is revolving on this stuff. And so if you're driven enough to, you know, to wake up, eat, sleep, breathe space flight, then it'll come to you, basically, you know.
Amazing. We've only got a few minutes left in our meeting time, so I'll whiz through these last couple of questions.
Oh, you're fine. We can we can keep going. You're good.
All right, okay. So what are your plans for between now and when you launch?
I'm really, really trying to settle down and work on as many videos as I can. There's so many video topics that are big topics that these are the videos that take me a long time to make, but they're the videos that I love to make. These are the ones that I think help the community, hopefully the best to understand rocket science. The one that I'm working on right now is how to start a rocket engine. And let me tell you, I thought I knew a decent amount about rockets. I generally thought that I knew quite, most things about a rocket engine until I started learning about how to start one. And then I'm like, oh my, there's even more to learn. There's always, you can always uncover another, layer of the onion there. And so I'm really excited just about some of those topics, just those kind of overall, like, general topics. I'm going to just keep trying to lay down a groundwork of things. I'm hoping to turn some of that into some other opportunities too, just some, I just really want to develop like this whole catalog that makes it so I can hopefully answer, things like orbits, and injectors and all of those things, just dive into them really deep and walk people through them as best as I can. But the other thing that I'm looking forward to, is just, I think that's the main thing, because I'm trying to not, I traveled way too much, in 2022, like literally from April, almost starting in March, really. Starting in March with the Artemis rollout. From that point on, I was barely home and barely able to sit and work on a video. I literally think I probably spent, at this point, maybe 5 or 6 weeks at home, which is where I'm the most productive as far as actually producing a video, out of the whole, since March. So I feel like there's a lot more work to be done, and I'm hoping to be able to kind of settle in. But I know Starship's probably going to interrupt that quite a bit, and I'm sure there's always going to be other things that interrupt it a bit too. But that's what I'm looking most forward to, just kind of continuing to do the work that I'm excited to do, for sure.
Amazing. I can't wait to see some of these videos you're making. That's all the questions from me. We've got a couple more questions from people over on Twitter.
Cool.
Pat Fury wants to know, what do you want your biggest takeaway from this mission to be?
Oh man, I know for a fact I'm actually, like, I'm quite an emotional person. I know that I'm gonna just completely lose my mind when I see the Earth from a new perspective. I just don't even know what that's going to actually feel like. Just seeing inspiration for that crew go through their reactions and emotions a bit was really, really fun. So I think my biggest takeaway is I have a sense of, especially, I was trying to let myself get into this mindset a little bit while I'm watching the Artemis program and I'm seeing some of these mission, pictures and stuff and videos come back. I was trying to just let myself into, like, imagine, okay, those are my eyeballs looking at this. What's it going to be like and feel like and do? And the overwhelming sense that I get when you see the moon larger than the Earth and you see Earth back, way off in the distance, is just how fragile everything is, just how frail and just out on its own. And, just, it makes you realize, I have a feeling it's going to really drill in how precious life is on Earth and how important it is that we all, I guess, more or less get together, get along and get together on Earth, because that's our little speck there in the huge vastness in space. And I'm already trying to prepare myself for that perspective, because I know it's going to be the overwhelming thing. I'm already like, let's come together, Mr. Kumbaya or something. But I think I have a feeling this is going to ramp that up even more. So sorry if you're at all patronized by that, because it's just going to be more.
Yeah. Andrew Paris wants to know, what objects of personal significance are you going to take with you, and why?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the old stinky flight suit I'm going to try to take with me. Obviously, I expect to, and our crew expects to have some really high-end photo and video gear. Obviously, I am a little bit of both. I was a professional photographer for 8 years, so I definitely still have a lot of that in me. I've been shooting a lot more recently just to kind of keep at it, make sure I'm, not a slouch on the camera. But also, yeah, video wise, I still love to shoot video. Obviously, that's still a big part of what I do. So that's something that I expect. The other thing that I expect, or would really like to be able to have access to, would be some musical instruments. Like I would love to have a guitar. I would love MZ is a drummer. I would love if he flew a drum set. Like that'd be so cool. Full drum set in space would just be. I mean, the Starship can do it. Like Starship has insane space, insane capabilities. Let's put drums in space, baby. Like, what are we waiting on? So I don't know if those would be my personal items, but I would love to have access to some instruments. That'd be so fun. And other than that, I just think like it'll be cool to even send just like family photos, like and family heirlooms, maybe even some of my grandparents' things or something like that, just to bring the whole like Dodd family heritage almost. And I don't know. That's probably about all I can think of at this point. Oh, and a laptop to play Kerbal Space Program, because I will definitely play Kerbal Space Program.
Definitely, yeah.
100%.
Andy Campbell wants to know, how excited are you?
It's becoming a lot more exciting and feeling a lot close. The announcement just really took from something that was kind of in the back of my mind, honestly. Like I was barely thinking about it that much because I just had so much work to do. And, it felt pretty far away. Now, all of a sudden, like everywhere I go, even just every time I go somewhere, people are asking me all about it. So it's just at the front of my mind a lot more. So it's definitely feeling a lot more exciting. But the spectrum grows a little bit. Like I get more excited as it gets closer, but then I also allow myself to get more nervous. It's kind of the whole gamut. It all just gets to be, it gets closer. So you start thinking about it more and more. But I think actually the excitement is starting to ramp up a lot more. And like I said, the nervousness, I think that's the whole point of training, is knowing the system in and out, getting familiar with risk and knowing how to mitigate it. So I'm really looking forward to that, just again, as purely almost as a challenge and as something new.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on here for an interview. It's been amazing asking you these questions. You had some amazing responses to some of my questions, and I can't wait to see you launch to the moon in a couple of years, and hopefully, maybe even our next interview in a few years when you're orbiting the moon. Once again, thank you so much for coming on here for an interview again.
Of course. Well, don't forget, there's a few things. I do owe you pizza someday.
Yes.
I did say on that stream I was going to get you pizza. So I will get you pizza someday. And of course, I'll do my absolute best to provide as much as I can physically, as much as I can of coverage around the moon. So stay tuned. It's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks, Felix. Good talking to you.
You too. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Merry Christmas.